what? About 14 minutes past. A.J. Green was not moved. He stays put as we, for the most part, expected.
Yeah, it's just my I told you so moment. It's the Bengals. They don't make trades. Now, I know they tried to trade A.J. McCarron a few years ago. That didn't work out. But the bottom line, A.J. Green stays put. We'll see now whether he plays when they come back from the bye with a new quarterback, Ryan Finley.
Mike, are you surprised that we did not see Melvin Gordon move?
Yes, I am. They've been 6-2 over the last 2 years without Melvin Gordon. Austin Eckler's now the better player. It would have been better off for them to move on and cut their losses. I'm surprised that he's a Charger.
Ryan, Darius Slay stays put.
You know what? I think Darius Slay became the top guy once Jalen Ramsey was moved. And if I was the Philadelphia Eagles, I know we were saying they just couldn't go for broke and sell out for him. If you believe that team is ready to make a run, you go out and get this young player. He adds something to your team from a man-to-man perspective. In the games you've lost, it's been because you couldn't cover up outside on #1 receivers.
Again, looking at players who were not traded, and among them, Diana, is Chris Harris Jr.
Yeah, the calls have been coming in for Chris Harris Jr. The calls from the Detroit Lions, the Philadelphia Eagles. But in the end, the price was just too high for Denver to deal him. No one was willing to come up and get that. So Chris Harris will stay in Denver.
An interesting conversation coming tomorrow morning, Coach. We've talked about this, but worth repeating for the Jets and Jamal Adams as he stays put.
Yeah, he stays put, and it sounds like the Ravens made a play late, as Adam reported. I know the Cowboys were involved. He is a terrific football player. I think it's good for the Jets that he remains. Now they just have to make sure that they kind of patch things up, and that because he is an emotional player, and hopefully he takes it well.
You know, just to add to that movie, the story forward is, what are they going to do in the offseason when he's eligible for an extension? The other issue is Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell was someone that they signed in the offseason after he sat out a year in Pittsburgh. He signed a big deal. They didn't trade him. I think that's a smart move because I think long handoffs in Adam Gase's offense from Sam Darnold to Le'Veon Bell will help Sam Darnold's development.
They still have half a season left to play, and they do want Sam Darnold to have some success. And if they want to trade those guys next March when the new league year begins before the draft in late April, that opportunity will present itself. So today, yes, was a deadline, but there will be another deadline next year.
You know, all summer long, we talked about all these players holding out, you know, most notably Ezekiel Elliott. And I just wonder if this Jamal Adams situation, moving it forward now, when he's eligible for an extension in the spring, now they're going to be trying, are they going to try to trade him? Are they going to try to extend him? But if he wasn't happy on his rookie contract, what's going to happen now?
It's not about the contract, so it's not about money.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think what is really probably the most significant move of the day, Trent Williams' holdout is over.
Oh, wow. Not traded, holdout over.
Not traded. He's reported back to the team, to the Washington Redskins.
To get his money.
Now, well, here's what's interesting. If it was before 4 o'clock, he could do that. If it's after 4 o'clock, albeit perfunctory, he would now need the commissioner's approval because he's on the commissioner's exempt list to be reinstated after 4 o'clock in the trade deadline. You would need the commissioner approval, which should just be a formality.
Yeah, I was going to say that shouldn't be complicated, right?
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Now, I guess you got to go through a physical, right? What's the process here to get him ready?
Right. He would have to report, pass his physical. Assuming that the commissioner did reinstate him, he would be eligible to play right away.
But 2-week roster exemption if they want it.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless he plays. So the way that would work is he would be their 54th player, and presumably if he was in good enough shape, Saturday at 4 o'clock, they would want to activate him, and then they would have to cut a corresponding player. So it's really the 54th player in terms of practicing. If he's going to play in the game, they would have to cut somebody else.
Surprised that it played out the way it did?
Well, I think the Redskins here held firm on Trent Williams the entire time. And I know that there were people talking about a potential trade, and there were people who predicted a trade and expected a trade. I don't think they ever budged in their stance here. I think that they took calls, listened to calls about what could and couldn't happen, but I don't think that this is a case where they ever came close to dealing Trent Williams. I think if they would have gotten the compensation, some huge offer, they might have considered, and they probably would have done it. But they never did, and they weren't going to trade one of the elite tackles in all of football.
But Adam, to Diana's point, you know, we saw what the Miami Dolphins were able to get for Laramie Tunsil. Why didn't Washington get the same haul?
Tunsil's the younger player.
Because Bruce Allen didn't want to make that. That was just his decision. He did not want to move on from Trent Williams. They value him at left tackle. He's one of the best. But I think it's pretty clear what Trent Williams is doing here now. He needs to report so he can get paid and get his money. How uncomfortable is it going to be in Ashburn?
Oh,
Trent Williams has a horrible relationship with them right now.
In other words, like, I'm not sure it matters. Here's the problem. It's not a problem. I think this is the reality, is that the Redskins are, it's like we are old guard, and you're not going to force our hand.
Right. Even though times are a-changing.
Even though it happened in Jacksonville. Now, Jacksonville got a pretty good haul for Jalen Ramsey, but it was their old guard stance, which is, we're not going to let you dictate to us.
And that's what it seemed like.
And let me add to that. Teams I spoke to that were interested in Trent Williams shared with me they didn't even want to call Washington today because they didn't want to bail them out. They didn't take our calls a month ago. We're not calling now to make a deal when you guys put yourself in this position.
All right, so Trent Williams not
Well, it's
traded,
amazing.
but
We
he's in
started the
Minnesota.
day with all this conversation about where Trent Williams could be dealt. And I think, again, knowing the Redskins and knowing how strong-minded they are, the sense was that they wouldn't trade him. They didn't trade him, and now Trent Williams has reported back to the team, and we'll see how this plays out.
One other interesting X factor is their head coach is Bill Callahan now. I work with Bill in New York. He's a very good coach, very good relations with players, offensive line background. I wonder if that dynamic, now that he left, Trent Williams, this was my position coach, now he's the head coach. I wonder if that was a factor at all in his decision.
The issue for Trent Williams is with the medical staff with Washington. As great as Bill Callahan is and as great as a coach he is, I don't think this is football related, why Trent wants nothing to do with Washington anymore. His issue is caught up with that training room, that staff, which is why he's decided to hold out here. So.
All right, or past tense, it would seem, as he is ending his holdout and rejoining his team. And it is still his team, the Washington Redskins, since he wasn't traded. So we looked at a lot of these players, marquee names who were not